All right, it's time to begin. As far as announcements go, the sympathy of the congregation is extended to the family of former member Billy Sue Blakely, and Teresa Boaz is dealing with severe headaches. Doctors have planned some upcoming procedures to try to alleviate the pressure in her spine causing the issues. And there are a number of other folks that are sick or we need to extend sympathy to or whatever. In the family newsletter, I would refer you to that. Also, tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. will be the Grief Trauma Support Group. If you have any questions about that, see Jenny. No, see me. She just does a lot. She does some stuff with that, but anyway, see me. That's tomorrow night, 6:30, Grief Trauma Support Group, next door in the fellowship room. Also, don't forget to, I'm going to change the wording on this. Don't forget to watch the new Tuesdays with Philip episode that came out on Tuesday. And remember to subscribe to our channel. It said don't forget to enjoy, but that's not sure you enjoy them. The food pantry item of the month is 16-ounce plastic jars of peanut butter. Any variety is welcome. They're currently on sale at Kroger if you want to get them there. Please place those in the carts in the hallways, but that's till the end of the month, 16-ounce plastic jars of peanut butter. And there will be a Woodson Widowed Warriors pitch-in lunch on March 19th. There's a sign up in the cabinets. That's all the announcements we have. Now I'll turn it over to Parker.
Souls in danger, look above. Jesus completely saves. He will lift you by His love out of the angry waves. Love's the master of the sea. Bills His will obey. He, your Savior, wants to be saved today. Love lifted me, love lifted me, when nothing else could help. Love lifted me, love lifted me, love lifted me, when nothing else could help. Love lifted me.
Recovering from the whiplash that Tim C. just gave us. On the projection there. It's a thankless job, in just a moment, I'm going to be reading from Philippians chapter 4, verse 7. But before we do, I thought I'd share with, I guess, the few of y'all that did not get an email this morning from me. I didn't know I sent it. I actually didn't send it, but somebody said that it was from Minister Philip Heffington. Somebody pretending to be me. So I get a email from, or a text from Bill Alderson, and then an email from Jeff Giot and from Brad just mentioned it. And who was the other person that contacted me? There was another person or two that clearly somebody was pretending to be me. It was a 08161@gmail.com. Don't know who that was. Pretending to be me. So I sent an email back to that address and said, stop, please. Said, you're not me. I'm retired law enforcement, by the way, and don't want to go back to that way of thinking, so just stop pretending to be me. I'm not really that exciting anyway. Thank you. Philip Heffington, the real one. So this happens a lot. People pretending to be somebody else. I don't know why somebody would pretend to be Minister Philip Heffington. Now, if they ask you for contributions or something, come see me. We'll take care of that. But why would somebody want to be me? Because I am pretty boring. Well, let's ask that question in a serious way. Philippians chapter 4, verse 7. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. If somebody's looking at me and my life, or looking at you and your life, what are they seeing? Are they seeing somebody who's complaining, who's not happy, who seems to be stressed about everything, unhappy about everything? Or are they seeing somebody that seems to handle difficulties with a certain grace and a certain peace about them? Do they see something in our lives that says, I want that? I want some of what he or she has. One of the best things we can do to evangelize folks is to live an authentic Christian life. And if we do it in an authentic way, they'll see something different about us. They'll see something different about us that's good. And people will want to be us or be like us or have our lives because they see the folks that love us. They see the way we are living our lives. They see the smile, the genuine smile and happiness on our faces at being a child of God. So I had fun with a little reply back to somebody pretending to be Minister Philip Heffington. For whatever reason they were. But somebody that knows me, what are they thinking about my life? Now, I'm not saying a lot of people want to be me. But I do think there are folks that want to have the life I have. That peace and that happiness that comes from being a child of God's. So tonight, a really simple question. Do you have that peace in your life, that happiness in your life, that genuine Christianity that people will want? No better time than right now to be baptized and become a Christian. If you've lost that happiness, that joy of that Christ-centered life. Got a bunch of folks here that would love to hug you and pray with you and pray for you and support you and encourage you. If you're in either of those categories, or if you just want prayers of this wonderful group of folks, this loving group of folks, whatever your needs are, if you would come while together we stand and sing.
Would you be free from the burden of sin? There's power in the blood, power in the blood. Would you or evil a victory win? There's wonderful power in the blood. There is power, wonder-working power in the blood, of the Lamb. There is power, wonder-working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. to live daily, His praises to sing. There's wonderful power in the blood. There is power, wonder-working power in the blood of the Lamb. There is power, wonder-working power in the precious blood of the Lamb.
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, thank you that we can be here, spend a few minutes in the middle of the week, singing praise, praying together, studying your word together. Father, walk with each one of us when we leave here and help us to be folks that do shine and reflect your light to others. Be with those that have been mentioned and that are on our lists that we're concerned about or that have special needs. In Jesus' name, amen.
If you linger at all, that's what happens.
Yeah, you can't hold down on it. Yeah,
So
you
now
can't
I'm-
hold down on it. That's okay. If you're standing here, we'd love you to move toward the front. Love to have you toward the front. Some already are. Thank you.
The good news is everybody here is so understanding and nobody's gonna make fun of you.
I'm just glad you didn't go through my lesson. That helped. All right. Are you sure that can be done? Question mark. Hey, Jimmy. So. Okay, good to have all of you. All right, good to see everyone. And any announcements before we begin? Nothing? Nothing? The Greece people are having a good time. Speaking of traveling, that's her version of amen, I think. The Calendines and I are hosting a trip to Israel, December 26. December 26. So if you're interested in that, we'll be posting information on that in the bulletin the next couple of weeks. Come to me and holler at me. It's an incredible trip, and we'd love to have any of you go that would like to go. It's nothing like it. And if you think, well, because of the safety, concerns over there, I know a guy who's already been over there twice. I know another group that went during the war and had an incredible trip during it. So we wouldn't do that. We would not go while they're actually over there competing. We wouldn't do that. But anyway, what? Yeah, I'm just trying to be politically correct on the air here. So, all right. Okay, here we go. We are in James, and this will be the last lesson on the tongue and misuse of the tongue and words and all that. Do y'all remember? Well, no, nobody's in here old enough to remember when this came out. Did you hear about it? Does anybody know what the purpose of this was? Anyone want to tell us? Who's the oldest person in here? Let's see. Is it Kendall? Chip? Who would be the oldest in? Chip, what was this in reference? The Dennis is older than you, isn't he? Yeah. Dennis, what was this pertaining to? What was this pertaining to?
World War II.
Yeah. And you had to be careful what you said because there could be spies listening in. And the Bible has the own version of that. In James 3, this will work here. No, it will. It's difficult, isn't it, Tim? It's just, it doesn't cooperate real well, does it? So also the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great things. How great a force is set ablaze by such a small fire. We left off last week with the Chicago fire and how one spark started that. Now, it wasn't her fault. It was not Miss O'Leary, and the guy that started the rumor was a newspaper publicist, and he admitted he made it up. She was just a worthless Irish immigrant. So what difference does her reputation make? That was his thinking. They don't know if it's a homeless person, some boys, but it was not her, and that was verified later. So they've been blaming it on her a long time. But the devastation was incredible, and just about the whole city was wiped out, and these are just some of the ruins. And you think about all the great buildings and homes that might even still be there from the 1700s that we've lost. And that's kind of what happens with the tongue. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire. Sorry, that's a little bit small there, but gossip in the Hebrew means lip wide open or big mouth. The Hebrew is always very picturesque. And talebearer in Hebrew means slander. And in Greek, the word for slander is blaspheme or speak against. And from the Greek word for gossip, we get whispering. Also in Proverbs, for lack of wood, the fire goes out, and where there's no whisper, contention quiets down. So here's some practical examples, and we'll go back to the text. There was a teacher that got summoned to the principal's office because it was reported that he had a book about sex on his desk. And the principal brought him in because it was reported a student saw a book about sex on his desk, which was a true story. That's what was on his desk. A book on sex. It's a sex on it was their abstinence course that they were covering. Now, in the 5 o'clock class, that's the rogue class. That's kind of the outsiders, the roustabouts, They come in. When, let's see, Suzanne Sampson saw that title, she said, it's too late for us. So I thought it was very inappropriate comment, but that's Suzanne. So, Coach Spann, one of my good friends, when he was coaching at Ezel Harding, I was over at Lipscomb, and his middle school team, he wasn't coaching the middle school team, but he was on the bench, just watching the games in the bench because he's the head coach of the program. And the next day, I did not go to the game, but one of my students who knew Coach Spann and I were friends came up to me and said, Coach Spann was cussing at the game last night. And I've known him a long time, and I immediately said, no, he wasn't. Even though I wasn't there, I knew he didn't. I called him up and asked him to verify that he didn't. I knew he didn't, but he said, no, what had happened, the other coach was mad at Coach Spann because he didn't come down to shake hands. And he had some words out, and Coach Spann said, I'm not even coaching this team. So they had some words, not really bad, and no cuss words. But when you hear something about someone that's kind of hard to believe, keep in mind it might not be true. Another time a kid came up to me, knowing Coach Spann and I are good friends, and said that he and his wife were getting a divorce. I hadn't talked to him in a while, and I called him up, and I just decided to be a little guarded, and I called him up and I said, hey, how you doing? He said, good. Is everything okay at home? Yeah, everything's good. I said, well, one of my students told me that you and Peggy were getting a divorce. He said, just a second. Peggy, are we getting a divorce? You hear her go, no. He said, no, we're not. We're good. It was the exact opposite. I don't know how that started. Keep in mind, it might not be true at all. And we've had a lot of stuff like that with churches, with schools said. One of the worst I ever had about me, that's a clip from when I was coaching at Lipscomb, and that's where our bench was, and we were playing a team where the cheering section was right behind our bench. And I was talking to some of their guys before the game that were on the football team, and I was telling them that I was wishing they could have kept winning in the playoffs so their basketball players would not be back from football and they'd give us a better chance. So I was just talking to them about that, and they were talking about their playoff game. And so during the course of the game at the end, and I would have never done this in a district game, but I always scheduled real tough non-district opponents to get us ready. And so we had a kid at the free throw line, and I turned and looked at their cheering station. They were all screaming real loud, and I went, get louder. You know, I wanted our guy to have that pressure to get ready later. I was called into the president's office for cussing the other cheering section. That's what got around. Apparently nobody gave me the benefit of the doubt. It went all the way there immediately. You know, and I had not cussed in weeks at a game. You know, been several weeks. Just keep that in mind. When Lisa and I were at Laverne, this was actually our first morning back at home after our honeymoon, and she had burnt the biscuits, which is ironic because she's a great cook, but it started off real rough. But we took the youth group to haunted house. This is back before we realized that was of the devil. But I'm just joking. So we took the kids to the haunted house, and so I got called into the elder's office, and they said, Mike, we understand that you use the youth funds to pay for the kids to go to the haunted house. Now, that may not sound like a big deal, but in the 80s in Laverne, the youth budget was only spent on outreach, service projects, camps, and retreats. Zero entertainment, okay? So that doesn't sound big back then. I mean, if Hunter had plenty of money in the budget, that'd probably be no big deal. But at that time, that was. And I said, no, that's not correct. I did not do that. Now, there's elements of truth in the gossip there. We did go to a haunted house, and it costs money. But that got construed as I had taken money out of the budget. And I told others, I said, if I was going to confiscate money out of the budget, I would spend it on myself instead of the kids. If I'm going to embezzle funds, I want to do it for myself instead of them. Some of you know these two people. Now, the lady on the left, Nancy Heffington, that's her and David. They were valued members here for over 70 years. And their son, Stephen, was working for John on the grounds. And he was picking up trash in the ditch out front. And it got back through the circles of gossip that he was drinking beer in front of the church building because he had picked up a couple of beer cans. And one of our members drove by and saw him. And, of course, we were dying laughing later like Stephen's going to go, that he wouldn't go behind the building, that he's going to do it out at Edmondson Pike at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. When you hear something that doesn't seem possible or seems just ridiculous, there's a good chance it is. We have to remember that. That's him there. He was a little younger. We did that. We had a teacher at school at Lipscomb, and some of the kids came up to me and said that Miss So-and-so, you've heard of Miss So-and-so, but everybody's had a teacher named Miss So-and-so. And they were kind of in dialogue with her, and she got frustrated with them, and they said, she told us to go to Hades. And, of course, they took that as a euphemism for going to Gehenna. And that just doesn't sound right. And then later, another kid said, so-and-so told us to, I'll tell you, it was Diane Griffith. I'll go ahead and tell who it is because it's got a good ending or an okay ending. But I went, because they've been to Haiti, and that's where it was. They were griping about the homework, and she told them, go to Haiti. If you want to gripe, go to Haiti. But she was cussing them, telling them to go to Hades. Sometimes we think if it's true, it's okay. And that's not the case at all. I was, years ago, and I can say years ago, that way you have no idea where it was. But a teacher, a fellow friend, teacher of mine, was talking about one of the moms at our school. She was a real big supporter of the school. Our kids were great, just super. And he was talking about, man, she's just a great mom and supports her kids are great. He said, but man, when she was in college, she did it all. And I thought, why do I need to know that? And how incongruent where he's talking about what a wonderful person she is over here, and then he has to tell me that. Why did I need to know that? Why did I need to know that information? But that's the way the tongue is. For every kind of beast have been tamed. And, if you've been to SeaWorld, how they can train these incredible sea creatures. He can even ski with them and get them to jump up on there. But nobody can tame the tongue. It's kind of gross looking, but no one can tame it. It's full of deadly poison. Proverbs, again, boy, Proverbs is loaded with this stuff. Whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets. Therefore, do not associate with a simple babbler. We can even insinuate things in our talking about people. It might be something like we know something about them. It's true, and we say it in such a way where it's not really gospel. Or I can say something like, I'm not saying Ford was drunk the other night, but he was really dizzy. Well, or Ford Holman was sober the other night. Yeah, he was. I promise you, he was sober the other night, with implications there. The words of a gossip are like choice morsels. They go down to a man's inmost parts. Are these things still selling? I know, remember back in the 80s? Are they still there? In the 80s, they were making millions of dollars off these, and they had a bunch of different ones. And I thought, are people buying this stuff? An alien Bible found. Well, y'all remember Michael Landon, and he was really a prince of Hollywood. Just a really great guy. And his last appearance on the Tonight Show, he was with cancer, and one of those tabloids had put that he had died, and he had family members that saw that tabloid before they had seen him, and of course it just scared them to death. And then his kids read stuff, and he was on there blasting all the things that those tabloids stood for. I don't know how they stay in business. And he said one of the tabloids suggested that he have another child with his wife Cindy, so she would have something to remember him by. And here's what he said on the air. He said, man, I got 9 kids, 9 dogs, 3 grandkids, 1 in the oven, and my wife Cindy needs something to remember me by. And he was just a really great guy. The tongue has no bones, but is strong enough to break a heart. Okay, let's travel to Creve Hall, to my estate, over in Creve Hall. You can identify my house with the orange and white mailbox there. So I know some of you like that. Some of you, it makes you sick. No comments needed at this time if you disagree. But let's suppose, Tommy, you like it, don't you? Thank you. Thank you. So let's suppose I pull in, and y'all know I've got a real cool truck. And Blake, you know, I'm hopefully getting it back for less than $18,000 engine there. So let's suppose one night you're driving by real slow, and you see me, I'm hanging out the door. And you kind of giggle and think, wouldn't it be something if McPherson was drunk? And then you see me get out, and I'm holding on to the truck for dear life. Go, is he drunk? And then I stumble going down the sidewalk, and I fumble with the keys at the door, and I basically trip going in. And then pretty soon you're calling the elders. We're pretty sure McPherson was drunk the other night. Well, what could have been going on? Why was I hanging out the door? What could have been going on there? Maybe I was sick. Yeah. Maybe I just pulled up. I was throwing up right there. Maybe I dropped my keys. Why am I holding on for dear life with the truck? Huh? Maybe I'm dizzy. Do what? Maybe Tennessee lost. I get over it quicker than that. Maybe it's icy. Why am I stumbling on the sidewalk? One kid at school went, because you're clumsy. Well, I can adjust that grade right now, can't we? Maybe the sidewalk's icy. Why am I fumbling at the door with my keys? Maybe the light's not on and I trip over the threshold, which we've all probably done. So here's a totally innocent situation, and it turns out to be something that's pretty bad. Whoever meddles in a quarrel not his own, and I love this. This shows how people haven't changed. Whoever meddles in something that's not his own is like one who takes a passing dog by the ears. You know, people hate it if you fool with their dog. Leave my dog alone. And when you meddle in other people's business, it's like you're fooling with their dog. You're bothering their dog. Whoever covers an offense seeks love, but he who repeats a matter separates close friends. When I think about, as someone who's worked here at the church for a long time and at schools where kids and parents talk to you, I have to be a steward of information. I have things that have been told to me that I could go and bust up a marriage. I could get somebody kicked out or get fired, but I have to be steward. Now, I'm not talking about concealing things when something's illegal, like if a child is being sexually assaulted or physically assaulted. That stuff, it's got to come down real quick. I'm not talking about that stuff, but things that I need to determine, what am I going to do with this information, and it's not for everybody. Now, I don't know do any of y'all know Phil and Donna Waldron? They are from Laverne. They're the Waldrons up in Laverne. You know, most of A lot of Laverne is Waldron. Does anybody know this couple? You know them? All right, Lynn. Well, Phil and Donna and I and Lisa were real close when we were going to church up there. And one night, and this was when we were real young, long time ago, and we were talking about gossip. And he said that whenever he hears someone gossiping, there's several reactions you can have. You can join in on it. You can just listen awkwardly, or you can say something back. And what he decided to do was, he didn't get in their face, but he would go, He'd just go, And it wasn't 3 weeks later, I was tearing into somebody in front of him. And he went, And I immediately went back to that conversation, and I just shut down right then. But that was his little way of, McPherson, maybe you shouldn't be talking about this. You might have to tell the person, why are you telling me this? Like when my friend was telling me about that lady from, this great mom now, he had to tell me her history in college that I did not need to know. Is there a reason I need to know this? And so the little acronym think, is it true? First of all, it doesn't mean it needs to be repeated, but is it true? Is it going to be helpful or inspiring when I repeat this? Will it help things out? Is it necessary? Some people, I know you're not one of these, but some people love to share stuff that they know and nobody else does. And it's this feeling of power. It's literally a power trip. I know something you don't, and let me let you in on it. And is it kind? These are kind of intimidating words from Jesus. For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. The good person out of his good treasure brings forth good, and the evil person out of his evil treasure brings forth evil. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. Now, since the day of judgment for the Christian is going to be a day of reward, I'm assuming if we're covered by the blood of Christ, we're cool on this. But if we're not, this is pretty intimidating to think about, but we still need to be so cautious. This is a scripture in Colossians that a lot of people use with evangelism, and I think that's good with outreach, talking to people. Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt. But I'd like for you to think about when we talk to family members, extended family, immediate family, that we be as nice to them as we would a waitress at Denny's. I remember a woman telling a marriage counselor one time, if my husband would just be as nice to me as he is to a waitress at the restaurant. If we could look at everybody like that, because sometimes we say things to our spouse and to our kids that we would never say to a stranger or somebody we don't know very well. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up. And I love how he closes that little line. Just as in fact you are doing. It's like, I know y'all are doing this. I just want you to keep doing it. This is a guy you've never heard of. And he is a preacher. And his name's Gary, and I just lost his last name. I was listening to a lesson by him today. Gary DeShalt, I think. No, McCullum, Gary McCullum. And he's a very prominent preacher, not in our parts. But he said when he was in college, he was at a Bible study, and it was just kind of like a home Bible study. And when it was over, one of the teachers of the class, an older gentleman, just kind of a mentor, said to him, actually his name was Dennis. Now it's all coming to me now. Dennis McCullum. Or maybe it was Billy Bob. I don't know. No, Dennis. He said, Dennis, you made some really insightful comments in class. He thought, well, thanks, that's good. And the guy said, I have no doubt you can be a really good Bible teacher one day. And he said he had never considered that at all. It had never crossed his mind. And that semester, he didn't have a lot of money. He went and enrolled and took one course in forensics and in debate and speech making, and then launched into ministry from that. Just that one line from that person. You know, at this congregation in Woodbine here, Radnor, that I attended in the 50s, 60s, 70s, long time ago. This congregation basically got me ready to become a youth minister, a teacher, preach some. And my face was not on the marquee like that usually. But it might as well have been, because that's what are you having to explain to her? What does she not understand? Would you two quit gossiping right here on the front row? What is she doing? Is that right? Yeah, that is so off our subject, but thank you anyway. Is that right? Well, that's sweet. That's right. But we're talking about me right now, okay? So, I remember leading prayers and making little talks, and I know they were terrible. But Radnor made me think that I was good at it. You know, after the young men do the services, you know, on Sunday night, the Lads to Leaders or the Leadership Sunday, going down and talking to them is big. It is big that you do that. It's monumental. You don't know what you're doing with one little line. And I thought it was great last time. Y'all got them all together for a group photo to brag on them. Because we don't know what's going to come out of that one day. And our church did a good job of lying to me when I know it wasn't any good, but I didn't know that. And it primed me for church leadership. Now, back to the word on slander, as we're talking about this, is kind of a devotional type thought to close things out. In the Greek, in the New Testament, this is the word we translate for devil. Now, the devil, Satan, does not have a name. That's not his name. You're thinking, oh, I know what his name is. What does everybody think it is? Lucifer. Lucifer, that's an improperly translated noun into a personal name. When you read the context in Isaiah, you'll see that. Just take my word for it right now. If you want to see the particulars, I can show you. But the devil doesn't have a name. That doesn't matter right now. But it's okay to gossip about the devil anyway. So that word means accuser and slanderer. So here's what I picture on the day of judgment. I know it's not going to happen like this, but this is what I kind of like to picture. That I'm called up front, and the devil's off to the side. He hadn't been sentenced yet. And he's pointing a finger at me going, God, you're going to let him into heaven? Remember when he was in the 6th grade? When he said that ugly thing to that kid at church? Remember in the 8th grade? Remember him cheating on that test at David Lipscomb College his freshman year? He was there to train to be a youth leader when he cheated on a test. Remember that? And they just keep rolling through my life, and I'm going, this is great. And I picture God going, oh yeah, I know all that stuff. In fact, he's a lot worse than you even know. But I got him covered. That's what I like to picture, that the gossip that the devil would throw at us, that Jesus is saying, he's good. He's good. And I'm really glad we do get forgiveness for misusing our mouth. And all we can do, we've all made mistakes with it. And I know I've done it at school. I've done it at coaching. I know I've discouraged people. I didn't mean to. I didn't want to. I know I've done that. We've all accidentally done that. All we can do is try to do better next time. This old man over at Peregrine Mills, I love this phrase. I've used it with a lot of people. It's never too late to do the right thing. It's never too late to do the right thing. Just making that next step. So that's my last slide. And thank you for coming to worship with us. But Ford is going to keep us longer with a comment. Ford, let me back up and go back to James. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'd like to go back and talk about the tree again.
Okay, Charlotte, where is it exactly?
Right there.
I didn't say a word.
Is it the orange one? Is it the orange one?
You
That's not even on the church property. Oh, it is next door? Okay.
It's all true.
That's neat.
So being around,
Yeah, that's all right.
they pushed the parking lot on up to the end.
That's neat. Yes, they did, yeah.
And, so she had the most beautiful maple tree
That's neat.
ever.
Yeah, and I wish y'all could have focused on the lesson, but I'm still glad you pointed all of that out. Ford, I'm glad you went back. We went back. Yeah.
One other story. Years and years ago, a caller, a lady, called into the Woodson office, very, very angry, very, very disturbed, because she'd gotten a hold of a bulletin and saw that Woodson Chapel had appointed a woman as an elder. And they asked her, what, do you have a Doris Barnes? Don't you have a Doris Barnes?
That's a classic.
Always,
That's a classic. I guess, I don't guess we know a lot of Dorises that are guys. That's true. Any other? That's a good one. I like that one. All right, I'm done. Thanks. Glad you okay.